Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video, and this is a paid request for Toby. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a Cash App as well. Links are down below in the info box. I'll get to as soon as I possibly can. For those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. And this is for Paradise Lost, the child murders at Robin Hood Hills from 1996. Now, this took a bit of me to get through because I think Toby might have warned me and I just forgot. Or I think there is warning at the beginning. But what happened was I started watching and then I looked down to do stuff. And I hear it start, the music, and then I went back. And within less than 2 minutes, you see the bodies of these three young boys dead. Like, you see them. And I just went, I had to turn it off and I had to wait a day or two. Because I didn't expect seeing that. But I blame that on myself for not paying attention to the warning and other stuff, so be prepared if you ever do watch this documentary. It's 2.5 hours long. That's another thing. I didn't realize it was such a long documentary. It's 2.5 hours. But definitely a documentary I had heard of for many years. And gleaned a little bit of the details. Never fully went and dived into it. It just seemed pretty depressing. But this is about the West Memphis Three. And one of the directors is Joe Berlinger. I know he did 2 more Paradise Lost after this, and he also directed Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, which I'm not a fan of that movie. I love the first Blair Witch, not a fan of the second one. It's better than Blair Witch 2016, but still. Anyway, this is about the 1993 murders of 3 boys in West Memphis, Arkansas. And they got 3 people who are the suspects: Jesse, Miss Kelly, Damian Eccles, and Jason Baldwin. And very early on, they show the crime scene, they show the dead bodies, and it's a documentary, but it's very fly on the wall, and this is kind of an interesting way of doing it, where usually you have either a narrator or someone asking questions, and you hear the interviewer. It's not the case. Literally, you hear like someone talking to the camera, or show footage of courtrooms, or footage of family, or footage of the victim's family, the suspect's family, people talking to the camera. We never hear from the directors or anybody like to not give any of their own takes on it, purely what's in front of us, and you make your own judgment. That is an interesting way of doing that. The music is Metallica, which was unusual at the time. Just Metallica was not willing to have their music and stuff. But I guess they heard of the story. They also knew that some of the kids liked Metallica, so yes, you do use our music. And it even begins with Sanitarium, that song. Which I do like that song. Boom doo 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 doo. And then throughout it, it goes into what the viewpoint of the victims' families, the suspects' families, 2 court cases, one of Jesse, Miss Kelly. Jesse had a confession, but then there's talk of, was it a coerced confession? Was it a real confession? The prosecutor, the defendant, their tape, you see the courtrooms, them being questioned. And then you have the second trial, which is with Damien Echols and Jason Baldwin. And throughout it, it's kind of like you have to kind of make up your mind. Now, I know. Sorry if wondering the air is just thin with the weather, so it's messing with my sinuses. Apologize. I know afterward that, okay, these three were convicted. They were in prison for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I know eventually they did get out. I know that at the time when this stuff came out, people were saying, oh, they're innocent. I don't think they did what they did. What's interesting is that if you look nowadays, people go, oh, they were guilty. They were let out. They were guilty. So I'm like, well, which is it? Around the time, there's a lot of people that felt they were innocent. Now there's people that think, oh, yeah, they were guilty, especially Damien Echols. He was guilty as shit. And I'm like, it's weird how things have changed on that front. Now, obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm just going to go on what I see on this program here. A lot of things don't seem to add up. Now, again, if there's information later on that was in the sequels, or 10 years from now, 5 years from this, or I don't know. I'm not privy to that. I'm sure people can educate me in the comments. I'm just saying, based on this, there's a lot of stuff that just didn't add up. For example, with the one guy, Jesse, when he was interviewed, apparently there were hours of him being questioned by the cops, but none of that was recorded. Then the stuff that was recorded, this one guy came up and said, listen, first he says it was at noon. Then the cops go, oh, are you sure you're still in school then? Well, it was after school. Well, I guess it was at night then. So it's like, okay, if he's so gun-ho to say that he did this, why is he saying noon? Then why is he saying after school? Then why is he saying night? But he's confessing, but he doesn't know when this happened. I would know if something happened, because noon and night are two different fucking things. Depending on something called the sun. And where it's at and where it's not at. So I thought that was a bit weird. The fact that there's no physical evidence on the crime scene. No blood. And they've even asked, like, there's a lot of blood. Would it still be there in the mud? Yes. Would it still be in the water? Yes. But they didn't find it in the water. They didn't find it in the mud. That's a bit strange. Some of these people come up with these things of, well, they wear black t-shirts, and that means they're this and that. And one of the parents of the suspects goes, well, Johnny Cash wears black. We all wear black. And we're not this and that. And then the guy who's this expert, he got a degree online without taking one damn class. How the scene of the crime seemed so clean. Even some people say it was even hard for serial killers to leave a scene this clean. Oh, this stepfather, which I think he's passed away. The stepfather, one of the dead kids, John Mark Byers. He seemed like such a fucking weirdo. He was the weirdest guy in the documentary to me. He looked like a fugly piece of fug. Fig Newton shit. Where he's shooting pumpkins, imagining it's the kids, but at the same time preaches about Jesus in church. The whole hypocrisy, all that shit. And like he brought a knife in, and then first he says the knife was never used. But then they found blood. Kind of like in the hinges where if you clean it off, you wouldn't really look for that. Then when he's questioned, he's like, you said it was never used. Then when you were asked, you said, no, I never cut myself. But now you're saying you didn't remember if you cut yourself? Well, I remember later if I cut myself. How the fuck do you forget if you cut yourself with a goddamn knife? No, this was never used. No, I never cut myself. Oh yeah, I remember I did cut myself. How do you not remember that? I still remember when I worked at Target, where I go in from the morning and unload the trucks, and you gotta stock stuff. I still remember being near the trash compactor, cutting boxes to put them in. I had a box cutter, and I did this, but I went too fast, and I nicked this top half off. Like I did like this, and this piece of this top half was sliced. And you can't see it, but there's a little bit of a white thing there. That's the scar tissue. I remember that, and I remember freaking out because I didn't know how deep I got it, because it looked bad, because it was bleeding. It looked deep. So I freaked out, and I got a bandage, and cleaned up all that stuff. I remember that. And at this point, that's been over... You know what? That might have been close to 20 years ago. Now that I think about it. Because that was around... It was around 2005. Now, I don't remember the exact date because it was 20 years ago. This wasn't 20 years ago. I don't think it was 2 years ago. I don't even know if this was 2 months ago. But this guy can't remember if he cut himself. I remember if I cut myself. What the fuck, dude? How do you not remember that? That's bullshit. I don't care how dumb or redneck you are, that's bullshit. Other stuff that didn't add up, they found the bodies and they had no mosquito bites. Now, obviously, if you're outside, you'd be having a shitload of mosquito bites. I know. Because if I go outside in the summer, I get a shitload of mosquito bites on me. No matter how much that shit you spray on, because it don't fucking work. This is useless. I'm just killing myself by spraying this shit on me. No mosquito bites. So, seems like they were killed somewhere else and brought to there. Thus also why there's no blood there. But they were killed somewhere else and brought over here. And these are pretty, they're kids, but these are small tizzy suspects. And then they make these, like, incisions. Because the one kid who was John Mark Byers' kid, which John Mark Byers has a history of abusing the kid. The kid's genitals were cut off with precision that these kids wouldn't have knowledge to. And, the genitals were under the kid's bed. No, it wasn't. And again, just weird stuff that would just occur and go, wait a minute. What about this and what about that? And like the crime scene, like it wasn't properly looked at. And just how also, I mean, to get back to the documentary instead of the case, you just see just how overtly religious everybody is. And like the parents, you definitely understand their frustration, and they truly believe that these people did it. So of course they would say every horrible thing in the book. I hate these three and the mothers that bore them. Can't really blame them for acting and saying that. Because if I have a family member that was murdered and I think someone did it, and you believe that someone did it, I would think every horrible thing in the book too. But then when these questions pop up, it's like you have to question it because you want the real person who did it. Or like this one person, oh yeah, he confessed to me. And even the defendants are talking about, yeah, this guy told me, don't believe that guy because I told him a bit about the case and that he's going to do this and that he's going to tell you this. And so the defendants know this is going to happen, but they're not able to do anything about it. Or these girls, yeah, I heard something, these rumors. Yeah, you heard rumors. That don't mean shit. As dumb as it sounds, the one of the takeaways I got was that Jason Baldwin kid drank Mellow Yellow. And sorry, I don't have Mellow Yellow right now. I have some in the other room, but of course, the one time I'm drinking Mountain Dew, someone in this is drinking Mellow Yellow. I guess I'll be one of the Memphis Three in the future drinking my Mellow Yellow. I think it's like one of like jars of Mellow Yellow too. I'm like, give me that. I want that. There's also this weird thing about Bojangles, where apparently there's a restaurant chain named Bojangles. And what had happened was someone had called and said, hey, some black guy came in here. He had mud on his shoes. He was bloody. He went to the women's restroom and he bloodied up the stuff, left. Did you come down here? The first cop, she didn't go in because it's not her jurisdiction. So she just went through the drive-thru and got some fucking chicken. Probably put up her fucking snatch. Which is the only bird she's getting lately. And then when they finally did, they got the blood and they lost the evidence. Now, I don't know if this, they don't say in this. I remember reading somewhere that someone said, oh, that guy was one-armed. Which, I mean, if he was one-armed, that'd be pretty tough to do the shit. But I would be wondering, like, why is he walking around with blood on him? And wasn't like a mile or two away from the crime scene? But then some people say, well, the time doesn't really work. I don't know the details. There's a lot of weird shit. At least if you test the blood, you see whose blood it was. If it was him, then he's bleeding to death and he died. Or ready to die. If he killed someone else. Or, I don't know, what if someone had just tied the boys out and left them there to scare them, and then this guy came in and killed them while they were tied up? Yeah, but then there'd be blood on the scene, so that wouldn't make sense. So, forget that. Like I said, that's what I mean. There's a lot of weird shit in this that just doesn't make sense. Because you have piss poor police. Like, you lose evidence, and there's easily reasonable doubt. There is no physical evidence that links them to the crime. A confession that from a guy who has low IQ, who is mentally not there, who can't remember if it's noon or night. Pretty big fucking difference. I know people didn't like the way Damien Eccles talked. I guess for me, he reminded me of Johnny Depp. Kind of this awkward nature. Kind of like when Johnny Depp was on trial, but he actually was a bit funnier because it was not as tense of a case. But I don't know, just for some reason, it can't remind me of Johnny Depp. And just the way he kind of talked and stuff. Maybe that's just me. Does he kind of have that Johnny Depp hair? And I don't know, that was just me. I know people have said that a lot of people think he had something to do with it. Because he's twitchy and he's this. I'm like, that or he's just a weirdo. Weirdo doesn't mean killer. Hell, there's some people who are the nicest guys who are the worst killers. Like Ted Bundy and shit. So, I don't know who did it. I don't know nowadays who they think did it. Again, some people think these West Memphis Three really did do it. I don't know who. My friend Mike, OCP, he's much more knowledgeable on this. Gladly hear your thoughts as to who you think did it. Obviously, they don't know for certain, but anyone out there, for anyone out there watching, listening, take your best guess and tell me why. Also, please do. It was a bit long. I don't know if it needed to be 2.5 hours long. I thought that the kids said the suspected they had alibis. I wish we could have delved a bit more into what those alibis were. Because I thought there was text that said they were with families. Maybe dive a bit more into that. But yeah, you could tell that they were definitely at the very. You could tell the sense of guilty until proven innocent. Like I said, the fact that there's no actual physical evidence, there's a lot of hearsay, and again, a confession that feels very coerced. And again, there's a lot of things that just don't add up. Like the stuff I mentioned. I will say, though, it was a fascinating watch. It was definitely a hard watch, especially the opening. Which I don't think you needed that. I get it, like to show the seriousness of the situation, but you did not need to see. You did not need to show the 3 dead kids, naked and dead. I think that was too much. I think that was uncalled for. Yes, I get it. It makes a big first impression impact, but to show the seriousness. But the fact you say 3 kids were murdered, we already get the seriousness of the situation. Maybe I just speak for myself. So yeah, I definitely a hard sit, but interesting to know a bit more of the details of this. Again, this came out in 1996. It definitely struck a fervor with people at the time because people saw this and went, well, what? Wait, well. I think more people thought it was a witch hunt and more. Again, at the time, because I remember hearing about it, that more people felt they were innocent more than people that felt they were guilty. But it feels like nowadays that's switched. I don't know if something happened that made that switch. That now people nowadays say they're guilty. I don't know. Listen, I don't know. Feel free to answer down below. But it was definitely a hard watch, but interesting watch. And the thing I got out of it was I needed some mellow yellow. Just Jason Ball, when he was 16, had some. Like I said, that Bojangles thing, that just... That makes me wonder, who the hell was that guy? Why did he have blood over himself? Again, they don't say in this he had one arm, but I swear there's another thing that said he had one arm. I don't know. Which would be hard to do all I said with one arm. Unless you're the one-arm swordsman or something. I don't know. Thanks for watching. Take care. I don't know what else to say. Cool that they got the Metallica music in there. So, good solid music throughout. Tough taste, but... you can't hide in a bubble from what goes on in the real world. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. I need to watch some fucking Sesame Street or some shit. Or, I don't know, watch some lighthearted shit. Like, I don't know, Salo or something after this. We'll see you guys later.